We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Those are words from our Declaration of Independence I was reflecting on today, and it is Independence Day, so it feels appropriate. And in thinking of Independence Day, this year I do as I every year think about what the founders must think, or what they might think had they were they to awaken today and to see the state that our country's in. In this particular Independence Day, I kind of maybe wanted to start a video vlog, so at least I can get my own thoughts in order on political or possibly religious matters. So we're just coming off of the presidential debates, and something very strange has happened during this in regards to what's out in the ether. So after the debate aired, the mainstream news media and politicians almost unanimously are acting as if Joe Biden's performance was a first, as if this wasn't something that was new. It's being treated that it's new. And I flipped on CNN last night, and it was like I was watching it. If you closed your eyes and listened, you wouldn't think you were listening to CNN. You would think you'd been transported to 6 years ago and was listening to Fox News. That's how critical they were being of Joe Biden. But the strange thing is, the things they're being critical of him for are not new. These have been present for 6 years or so. He's clearly at a cognitive suffering cognitively for whatever reason, whatever the condition may be. He doesn't speak well. He rambles off into thoughts. He says incoherent things that don't have anything to do with it. He can't move around too well. He looks aged. Like, all these things have been going on for years. And what's strange is the media has buried those types of things until this last week. Now it's all they're talking about. So it's really strange to see the media cover up truth for years. Anytime somebody would say something like this, they'd get shot down as a conspiracy theorist, and they'd have somebody on just talking close to the president, talking about reassuring how sharp he is and all that, how what we were seeing wasn't real. And now it's flipped. And I've really been thinking about that, because it's a strange thing. I get really worried when the mainstream news is reporting something that's true, and it throws up every red flag that I have. And I've been thinking about it, because something else interesting that happened is there's a conspiracy going around, which you don't see conspiracies get popular too often. But this one is that they're going to actually replace Joe Biden before the primaries, which there's a lot of, I could see how you can reasonably reach that, being that they haven't held the convention yet, and that the debates were so early, maybe this was a trial run. I get all that. But what I want to propose is that they're doing something a lot different. And I've been thinking about this a lot. Now, I don't know if they're going to swap Joe Biden out. I think, honestly, he's probably their best shot at winning, as crazy as that seems, because he doesn't really have a shot. Now, I think it's become so blatantly obvious that they can't apply the same measures that they did in the 2020 election. And in doing that, they can't as easily, how do I word this, move the election to the outcome that they want, as they were able to do, in 2020, not in 2016. I think in 2016, it was so overwhelmingly Trump that he beat the system in 2020 using COVID. And regardless of how you feel the election was stolen, this was a much different election than any other election. They changed rules. The counting of mail-in ballots, like if you look at the mail-ins, compared to in-persons, overwhelmingly Biden on the mail-ins. And there's a lot of red flags. There's ones that shouldn't have been counted. They subverted current election laws. They mass mailed them out unsolicited in some states. Whereas before you had to go in person, show voter ID. So what they did was they changed a lot of the policies, and they had a lot higher voting turnout, particularly with mail-ins, than they normally would have. And there was even more suspicion above those. So think about it what you will. I think they acted unfairly, and I don't think we got the same outcome in the 2020 election we would have got had there not been COVID and all these measures put in place. Now, as we're approaching this election, you don't have COVID, you don't have those measures in place, and some laws have changed, especially in a lot of the municipalities where those types of things were more omnipresent. And also, you're not going to have the same. It's just a different scenario. Now, I think it's so overwhelmingly clear to most Americans, not thanks to what the media is reporting, but in spite of the truth, Trump is so overwhelmingly going to defeat Joe Biden that there's no way of even pretending that there's anything close to a chance of him winning an election. It must be so abundantly clear that they've realized this. Now, I don't think they're going to replace Joe Biden as candidate, though they might. But one strange thing I noticed last night, and this is when I started to figure it out while watching CNN, was that the only thing they were talking about in regards to failure of Joe Biden was his debate performance. They were talking about his cognitive ability in the same way they did when Trump was president. When I don't know if you remember, there was an instance where Trump went to go drink a water, and he didn't quite lift his arm up right, and he kind of drank it like this. He put his head back. Now, it was headline coverage about questioning his cognitive ability to become president. I mean, it was crazy. He was walking down a ramp slowly in the rain at one point. It was just headline news questioning his physical ability, and is he capable of being president? It's crazy stuff. Now, they did the opposite for Joe Biden the whole time. They covered up all the stuff. I mean, you guys, and we saw it because we're on, social media, Instagram, X, Facebook, Reels, all this stuff. I mean, we see them, but not in the mainstream. The general public, like especially the older population that still relies on news, they didn't see any of that. It's been crazy conspiracy talk to say that's anything of Joe Biden. Now that's all they're talking about. What I think it is a distraction. I think they're shifting the narrative that the reason Joe Biden is going to lose is because his sudden mental dementia, whatever word they use, but his sudden decline that didn't become apparent until the Donald Trump debate performance. But the truth is, the reason Joe Biden's not going to win the presidency is his failed administration. It's his skyrocketed inflation. It's the wars. It's America's stance on the world stage. It's what people are paying for groceries every week, despite when the mainstream news tells them not to believe their lying eyes, that everything's better. It isn't, and it's been felt for years now. And regardless of that debate performance, it happening or not, the people are overwhelmingly not going to re-elect Joe Biden. They don't have a big narrative push like they did last time. And you notice the talk now is all about focused on Joe Biden's mental state, which they're not realizing now because they've actively covered it up, but they're only reporting now, which tells me there was a narrative shift. I think the focus they want to be is that the reason Trump got reelected was of Joe Biden's mental decline. But that mental decline's been present. Actually, that debate performance, I've seen worse things of him than that debate performance that were years ago. Worse than that? I mean, relatively speaking, honestly, he probably did a little better than I thought he was going to do. Now, there were some moments that were funny, because it's funny to see, It's not funny to, in a sense of, look at this guy having a, a sad moment. Like what it really is like, look, they've told me this guy's mentally sane. There's evidence to me that he's not, and that's funny. At least that's how it was for me. But just be careful out there. Uh, Again, I don't know if they're going to swap out Joe Biden or not. I think it'd be crazy. That sounds like radical conspiracy, and there's another red flag there because everyone's saying it. And when everyone's saying something like that, it's usually always wrong. At least that's how it has been. But just want to get my thoughts out there. You guys have a happy and safe 4th of July, and happy Independence Day.